the white paper to investigate how the business community interpreted and planned to respond to Malcolm Turnbull's innovation and science agenda. And they also asked questions around the game plans that the companies have as well. And the findings were, I think, quite surprising. To discuss the revelations, we have Martin Seward, who's American Express's Vice President of Global Commercial Payments. Martin, thanks for joining us on the show.
Good evening.
Were you interested and surprised at some of the revelations in that white paper you guys created?
Yeah, some of the insights that came from it are very, very interesting. We saw that 80% of companies had a view that evolving their business was absolutely critical for their future success, but only 40% had a long-term game plan. Those long-term game plans assured that they were going to get more than double the likelihood of double-digit growth. They were likely to have higher turnover. They were likely to be bringing innovative products to market, and on top of that, have higher confidence in their future. But that was only 40%.
Yeah, it is unusual, isn't it? I guess some businesses might say, well, we're competing in this disruptive environment. Things are changing all the time. We have to respond. But it's crazy that they haven't got themselves a long-term game plan, which is flexible, but it's still you're heading to somewhere, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a lot of them face challenges with time. A lot of them face challenges with securing the funding also to be able to innovate and look at those long-term game plans. So I think encouraging them to do so, having the right plans in place that fit around the right plans for having a vision, having the right strategies and tactics in place, and then making sure that you adjust as you go through that is absolutely critical.
Okay. Also, there was an alarming lack of internal investment innovation by the mid-market. Explain to my audience what the mid-market represents to you guys.
So the mid-market for us represents between $2 million worth of turnover up to $300 million.
Yeah, so good-sized small businesses into significant mid-caps. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there was an alarming lack of investment, internal investment in innovation. So we saw across 80% of organisations that thought innovation was important for their future. 40% said that they hadn't brought a new product to market within the last 3 years.
That staggered me, that
Absolutely.
one.
And then of those, 50% said they weren't planning to do so in the next year as well. So
was there? I didn't notice it, but was there any difference between service organisations versus product organisations?
We didn't ask that question. What I've seen from the customers that we have and the focus that we have at American Express, we see some customers that have got the right approach across product and some that have got the right approach across service sectors. Yeah. What we saw from this study that was very, very interesting was 70% of businesses had a plan to invest either $100,000 or less in R&D over the coming 12 months. So if you take an average middle market customer, let's say of $50 million turnover, that's 0.2%.
So it's a mere bagatelle.
Absolutely. Compare that with the top 10 innovators, and they're spending probably 7% of their turnover on R&D, so that's 35 times more.
So a high proportion of mid-sized companies haven't brought a new product service to market, so we covered that. Importance of a long-term game plan in driving company growth and fostering innovation. Now, this is what you guys argue, that long-term game plans are important. Is there actually a history of great businesses and their characteristic is long-term game plans?
Yes, yes. So we saw from this that those organisations that do have the long-term game plan are much more likely, or 2 times as likely, to have double-digit growth. They're likely to have higher turnover, and they're likely to bring more products, new products to market. And as we know, if customers are receiving new products that are right for them, that can be significant.
What about the one that staggered me, Martin? That was 33% of CFOs think they will fail in the next 3 to 5 years.
I know.
It seems really...
Yeah.
Like, we know small businesses often have this high failure rate, but you wouldn't have thought these sorts of businesses would have that expectation.
Yes. The same is true if you look at these organisations that have the long-term game plans. The likelihood of them succeeding is so much greater. But like we say, 60% don't have a long-term game plan, 25% don't have any short-term game plan. We know that 50% are doing ad hoc planning. Yeah. Whereas 50% are structured in their approach towards planning. So you see, if you have a long-term game plan, you're much more likely to be successful. Yet as we see out there, organisations aren't finding either the time or the resources to be able to do so.
Well, one other thing that quite shocked me was that 59% of CFOs were unaware that the National Innovation and Science Agenda, which Malcolm Turnbull made a very big song and dance of when he became Prime Minister, they're unaware of it, but 65% think it's only for small business, and it's not true, is it?
No, it's not. And it's very, very interesting. Of the customers that, or the organisations that we surveyed and we spoke to, 80% saw the importance that the government plays in funding innovation and supporting innovation.
Yeah.
The OECD data also suggests that organisations that receive funding from a government spend between 40 and 70% more on innovation. So it's absolutely critically important. But some of this data that came through on organisations that weren't aware that this applied to them was just for the small market.
It was like I thought it was all for groovy start-up entrepreneurs, and which, of course, you know, Malcolm Turnbull has praised those sorts of businesses, and they're in the catchment. But also, any business that's prepared to innovate and come up with great ideas can access this funding and support.
And the other thing that was very, very interesting that we saw from the survey was innovation doesn't need to be transformational. It can be the smallest focus on improving a customer touch point or changing some packaging on a product that might be better for a customer. So it doesn't need to be transformational. It can just be in your approach towards customer engagement.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if people want to see this, where do they go to?
So they go to chieffutureofficer.com and they can get this analysis.
Chief Future Officer. That's your new take on CFO.
Absolutely.
.com. Great stuff, mate. Good to see you.
Thank you.
It's Martin Seward from American Express.